Welcome to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're joined today by Alan Architecture Interiors Design, the AAID. The team is based in Dubai. We're joined today by Regina Matthew, Mansi Tawari, Ruki Riza, and Soumya Garg.
Hello.
So thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. They recently submitted an entry into Surge for Water 2020, which I'm intrigued. They're going to tell us about that a little bit in a minute. But we've got the team here today to tell us about their entry, which is actually really, really beautiful. It ticks all my biophilic boxes. So it excited me when I saw the entry. So if you could tell us a little bit, first of all, just to put it into context, what Alan Architecture Interiors Design does, particularly in Dubai, if that's okay.
So AAID is a design firm based out of UAE as well as the UK. We've been in UAE for 10 years and in the UK for around 5. It's a family-run boutique design firm. We do projects, architecture projects, interior projects, anything to do with commercial, hospitality, retail, you name it, and we love designing it. Some of our projects are the Atlantis on the Palm. We worked on the Google headquarters, the Ernst & Young headquarters, Huda Beauty. We're working on the Arts Club here in Dubai right now. So a host of industries that we're kind of working towards. And that's what we do.
Okay, I saw some of the work on the website, and it absolutely was beautiful. It's sort of elegant sophistication.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's
Thank
really
you so much.
Really striking. Could you tell us a little bit about Surge for Water 2020? What exactly is it?
Yeah, Surge for Water, it's an organization that has been set up by an individual called Shilpa Alba back in 2008. And it's all about providing access to safe water and sort of using water as means to end a cycle of poverty and just kind of getting at it at a grassroots community level. They have quite a few things that they do, which one is access. So building wells and rainwater tank construction is one of the things that they do, even rehabbing existing wells or natural springs. They also take into consideration water purification by providing filters for community use or household use, depending on the area that they're servicing. They also focus a little bit on sanitation and hygiene, so clean water, and also educating people to ensure that once it's there, it can be maintained, the importance of clean water, even things like menstruation, hygiene, things like that to keep people healthy. These are basic necessities that we don't necessarily always think about, but they do a lot of work. They work across 4 countries, mainly Haiti, the Philippines, Dominican Republic, and Uganda.
Oh, really?
They have about 11 projects that are live at the moment, and it's all pretty much done through volunteer work, and they've had a really, really great impact over the past 10, 12 years. It's a really great organization. And Surge for Water, just to give you an idea of what we're doing with the competition, they've been holding these yearly design galas for local design firms in the Dubai region. And we are allowed to sort of we pair up with somebody and we come up with an idea. So each year they'll have a design brief. Sometimes it's a furniture piece, a lighting piece. Last year it was about sacred geometry. This year it was a little bit more about biophilia. So it's always interesting every year. They keep it quite challenging for all of us. Helps us kind of think a little bit. So it's a great initiative that they've done, and we try and take part in it every year.
That's really great. I said I work in I do work in Uganda, and I've got friends who work in Haiti, and I know exactly what difference fresh water can make, actually, particularly in those regions. So it's like a really good thing to support. Your entry was really intriguing. It looks so beautiful, which is the thing that caught my eye. Hence, sort of like dragging you guys onto the can you tell us about it? I mean, this is a video. Obviously, people who are watching this are seeing it as a video. So if you hold it up and you sort of the image. But if you could describe it as well for the podcast listeners, that would be great too. Thank you.
So this is our design. So where this is coming from, so our design is called Linked, because our focus from the start, as soon as we heard about Surge, so the mission of Surge is to reach out to people who maybe don't have the same kind of privileges that we take for granted often. And it's all about community. It's all about reaching out. So we wanted to keep their mission in mind when we're developing whatever we wanted to reach out to public. So what Linked is a set of modular panels that are hexagonal in shape individually, and they come together and they form a screen, which allows for people to create their own space within a different kind of a space that they're in. Because we've been in such challenging or interesting times, if I may say, where our lives were already stressful from before, but something that has added on has been the lack of privacy that this work from home and this lockdown has kind of put upon us. And there's been a blurring of professional and private and personal boundaries, maybe not in the most convenient way. So we wanted to address this additional stress that is caused to our lives, because all of us have experienced this in one way or another. So what we wanted is for people to be able to regain a little bit of that control back into their lives, and to be able to pursue their hobbies and their passions, which they've had to put aside because their world has been consumed by work, because homes become work, everything, you're still around the same people. So we wanted to give the option to actually connect back to self and connect to the community. And that's why it's called Linked, because each panel links to each other, it relies on each other for support, and that's how the screen forms. And that's what we believe a community is, that individually we are each, but we rely on each other. When we come together, that's when we form one unit, and that's when we accomplish what we can. So yeah.
And the beauty of this product is that it's multifunctional and flexible. So you might see this in this scenario that it's at a certain height, but because of the modularity of it, you're giving users the freedom of choice to build their space as and when they see fit, depending on the heights, which is why you've got the hexagonal panels, which are made from dry date palm leaves and arish stems, which is the local term for date palm. So this is a way to recycle and use scrap material that would otherwise be thrown out. So we're linking back to sustainability and the use of natural materials to connect you back to nature as well.
Okay, it's really beautiful. I was saying, each little, so it's the hexagonal, almost pods, aren't they? Really, with sort of pieces of material, and sort of like you're saying, the date palm woven sort of fascias. It looks like there are plants in there as well, or is that how it is?
Bring it a little closer, but ideally, we've shown these pods as being highly customizable. So some of these pods may be ways to, store like books or material. Some of them could have biophilia integrated into it. Yeah. So that way you're bringing in even more of the outside in, like the planters here shown.
Okay. And the sort of design thinking behind it, as you say, was to so that it could be modular, so it could provide privacy. I think it's really lovely, and just like you made the point that there's yeah, you know, we don't have a lot of privacy at the moment, is it? We kind of, everybody's living in each other's pockets. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, because, you know, there's only four walls that we're in. There might be different four walls, but to have something like that where which is modular, I think, to give the flexibility, particularly amongst women, actually, would be is a fantastic thing, I think, you know.
Yeah.
We can put our tights on in privacy.
Thank you.
What was the process? What process did you undergo? How did you sort of start from the beginning? I mean, what was the concept? Did you work together as a team, or was it sort of sketches, or was it brainstorming, or?
The first one is a sketch on a paper napkin.
Okay. It was.
on our board making table in the office, and we literally like chicken scratched it and like came up with it together. And then it kind of developed into something which we could actually build on our own. And Ruki will explain more of that.
So it's funny how your initial ideas start out, because you obviously got these grand ideas. So our initial process was actually obviously bringing privacy in, but we looked at it in a very digital manner, where we thought maybe we could control this through an app, and it would be coming down from the ceiling. So the final idea you see now is obviously very different to our initial idea of something built on the roof, controlled by an app. And this was because through obviously team building and discussions, we wanted to, how do I say, pare it down a little bit and make it more accessible to everyone. Because as cool as it is to say, oh, it's controlled by an app, the mechanics of how it actually works needs to be simplified so it's accessible to everyone. So we brought it back to the roots of nature, where it's just built together with recycled date palm fronds and leaves, tied together with jute twine as well. So that way it's easy to store, easy to stack up as well. So the process was interesting to say the least, but we got there in the end, just because simplicity is the main factor, because you really want everyone from all walks of life and different backgrounds to be able to use it, and in different settings as well.
I think when we took a step back and just really looked at it, that being reachable to anyone, that really is key to what Surge is doing as well throughout their what they're carrying out across the world. So it was important for us that whatever we design and we put forward for this competition conveys that same message. It is still reachable. And we got really excited with the apps, and it can come down from the wall, they can do different configurations. I mean, it will be really cool. And then immediately we went, okay, well, that's not feasible for everybody. We're thinking like us. We should think like some other people.
And are they being able to, I mean, can you obviously is the thing that you can make them on locally. So wherever they're going to be installed, they can be used, they can use local artisans, local workers, local creatives.
Yeah, and I think that's what allows it to be flexible, and kind of it makes it more accessible, where we are trying to use as much reclaimed material and as much as upcycled material as possible. And what also the system allows you to do is, in fact, the prototype that we made, which it's still at the Surge Gala, is the fact that we built it on our own, because if we can build it, then anyone else can build it. And it'll obviously kind of work with whichever city, whichever continent, whichever area you're in. Like, we were able to work with date palms and leaves, but someone else in Southeast Asia can probably potentially use other palm trees, coconut palm. The fact that there's so much textile that gets used in different parts of the world, you can have leftover textile. We literally, as designers, waste so much material. I mean, it's just a shame how much fabric samples, how many carpet samples we receive from suppliers, which probably get discarded at the end of the year. So we want to use these materials. Our prototype was made out of the leftover carpet samples that we had, and leftover leather samples and leftover textile. So we want to kind of work with whatever everybody wants to give away, or whatever everybody has available, so that it is accessible to all. It is, we're recycling, we're saving the community by not just hoarding materials, not just like holding on to things we really don't need to, and put them to some better use.
I think that's a lovely thing. It's sustainable, it's for the environment, and as you say, it also helps the local people. You mentioned that there's a community aspect to the project. Can you sort of tell us a bit more about that, how you hope that it will impact the people using it? I presume it means it depends where it's actually positioned, you know, if you put it in a public space.
So actually, one of the things I think Regina will can elaborate on later would be, we were actually inspired because we had recently seen a lot of the local women here. We'd gone to, this was a little before COVID had hit, but it was a festival where we'd seen a lot of these woven mats in the most brightest of colors and in the most intricate kind of weaves, that we were kind of just very surprised at how it was done. And what was a shame was when we spoke to them, they couldn't speak to us very well, like the artisans who were sitting there. But what we understood was they wanted us to really support them and to buy their materials, just because they were trying to say that because of modern shops and machinery and everything, a lot of their craft is dying.
Yeah.
And as designers, I think that's something we are also very aware of, how to keep things alive, how to bring back the past and future, how to merge all of that together. And that's something we wanted to bring focus to these communities. So we want to take this kind of tying methods, the weaving methods that they regularly use. So we wanted to show people who live in the modern world as well that it's not something to be scared about. It's something, if we can do it as people who live in a metropolitan city like Dubai, if we can take off what a gardener has discarded, if we can take that and create something that actually has a purpose, anyone can do it. And that's why it's so important to support these artisans in every part of the world. And that's why we've also wanted to build something that can be made from any material, from any city in any part of the world. Be it someone can use mud, who is crafty with mud, someone can use leaves, someone can use pretty much anything that's discarded, bamboo or twigs or stone. It really is up to the imagination of the person, up to their interest and their aesthetic. So in different ways, yeah, we just kind of want to support people, be it in urban or rural areas, artisans, communities, and farmers as well, because these times have taken a toll on a lot of these people because of the lack of transportation, lack of all of the things, and imports, exports. So using of leaves and biophilia and using palm leaves, we wanted to also support local farmers to be able to grow more plants, to have more of a use than besides the fruit of trees, to actually have a use of the discarded part of the tree, what we think is waste, but they can actually earn a different income from that as well. So kind of take that into different communities all around the world, which is what Surge's mission is also about. So we wanted to tie that all back in the best we can.
Like Samia said, it's just about bringing or, helping grow the industry within these local areas, where they could really use the help.
Yeah.
And tapping into sort of these specialist, skills that'll really help us kind of bring that together.
Yeah, I think the same. I mean, actually, to be fair, you could even do that over here. I mean, in any community. One of my passionate thing is about trying to resurrect traditional crafts here. You probably I don't know if you know, but I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker as well, and I've documented like the last oak swill basket maker in the world.
Oh wow!
He splits the oaks down, and it's just amazing to see. You think, why does everybody cut like that way? Why don't they cut this way? And he's just, do you know what I mean? And he's taken on apprenticeships and things. So, I thoroughly support what you're doing. I think, and to try and highlight it, I think it's a really great thing. Your backgrounds. I mean, is there something that's compelled you to work on this? Sort of personally, has there been a sort of personal driver? It could be because it's an environmental thing, or it could be because I don't know, you've got a hexagonal kind of sort of fetish or something. I don't know, but is there something? Is there something that's in your backgrounds or that's in your experience, even relatively recently, that's compelled you to want to create this particular?
I think one thing that kind of stood out for all of us was, I mean, obviously the lack of privacy has been a very big deal for everyone. Post-COVID, but even before COVID, I mean, we've all been like stuck to our phones and stuck to our laptops, and but with COVID coming in, one thing that has you'll see it in the news, the fact that, I mean, we are still privileged. And there are lots of parts of the community that were impacted so severely, like in the labor camps, in like homeless shelters where everybody was just crammed in because of stay-at-home orders, that we also this kind of struck a chord where we thought that what if we were able to create a system that would kind of bring the communities together because of all the reasons mentioned before, but also allow people to have a better lifestyle in these trying, testing times, and not just maybe like have a curtain that separates you from your neighbor when you're anyways like 8 people to a room, or just like 10 people to a space, right? If there was something that we could create potentially that would help in giving a sense of space to a lot of people that they need in these current times through different stratas of life. That was something that was close to us, that kind of helped, I think, and it comes from a background where we've all been in situations and seen situations where not everybody gets what they want, and not everybody, even though they work hard, get everything that they deserve. And if there's something that we can do which lends character to where they are and what they're surrounded by, that's great.
That's really lovely. Would anybody like to add anything else or to that?
I think just building on what Mansia said, especially her last comment about bringing character into a space. A lot of the designs you see tailored towards those with, like, how do I say, backgrounds that no one really wants to focus on. They build a very utilitarian sort of product for them. They don't really think about, let's say, the not necessarily just the aesthetics, but the functionality and aesthetics together. So our product kind of brings in the outside in through the use of natural materials. So whatever the situation, they won't feel like they're left out in a sense, because they still have something they can be proud of, they can use and take care of as well. So they get a sense of belonging to the item and nature in a way.
Yeah, and it's true, isn't it? By bringing nature in. If you've got the outdoors, if you're stuck inside, the whole point about biophilic design and trying to bring biophilia into interiors is so that you don't, if you are stuck indoors or you're working from, you have that, you have that connection, that inherent connection that's sort of a prehistoric thing in us that we need to have nature around us. I suppose really final question for me. If you could, this is kind of like our magic question that we ask at the end. So you can be as wild or as crazy as you wish, but if you could paint the world with a brush of biophilia, what would it look like? It could be workplaces, it could be urban environments, it could be homes, it could be, I don't know, hospitality areas, whatever. If I don't know who wants to start, but yeah, just fantasy. What would it look like? What would the world look like?
I mean, I think this might not be as flowery or as out there as maybe one of my other colleagues could be, but for me, in general, sustainability means a lot, and that's been my focus throughout my education and my work as well. So one of the things that I would really like, and especially that's something that has been heightened to me during the process of creating this, is that we are often, being in the more metropolitan side of things, we are so out of touch with nature that it's become it's become a different connotation in our mind, more of a scary or unknown kind of a thing, where if someone says, oh, let's go camping or let's go trekking, at least for me, because I don't get a chance to go that much, it's like, oh wait, but how am I going to do this, or what's going to happen, what am I expecting? So a lot of this, so what I would like is at least for all of us to have some kind of an experience, or someone to just come explain, take us, or like take everyone for like these even if it's just a short experience where we physically get to see that, okay, these are very normal things, and these are things that actually do rejuvenate us, and they're very important, that's not something we should be scared about. And because then we can actually start bringing it, because right now for us, biophilia, maximum we end up going to buy, oh, let's buy a plant for the house. That's the max. So that's the max risk we take. But I would really like, even for myself, to be able to have the courage to be like, no, okay, if I go out to a waterfall, if I go out to like trekking somewhere on a mountain, it's going to be perfectly normal and it's going to be great and not scary at all.
That's really nice.
So it's a very interesting way of looking at it as well, and very valid points someone brought up. Personally, for me, if I want to paint the world with the brush of nature, might seem very superficial, but as an artist, I would like a way for nature and art to be connected, to really look at nature as an art form, because nature is the best artist. Like, we're inspired by it throughout, based on forms like similar to our linked panel, the hexagon, which is commonly found throughout nature due to its like rigidity and stability. Nature knows what to do with these forms, and I really want a way for us to kind of look at it rather than just, obviously, you're stepping out, you're feeling like refreshed when you see like a green landscape in front of you, but really look at it as an art form and maybe adapt from it as well, rather than working against it, which a lot of people tend to do, unfortunately.
Fantastic. I love that. And it's in the hexagonal thing, which is true, actually. So bringing that back is lovely. It's really good. What about you, Regina?
I think for me, I wish people would start thinking about, I'm talking about maybe cities or countries, potentially, you know, when you're doing your master planning or you can kind of work biophilia in rather than sort of trying to retrofit it. Oh, let's put a couple of planters in, and but actually bring in some community gardens, community parks where people can go and enjoy and actually see that as in their everyday lives, and interact with these things in their everyday lives, rather than just being a retrofit kind of a situation. Oh, let's do a green wall and let's do some planters and we're good to go. So just kind of being a little bit more mindful from the get-go, rather than trying to just work it in at the last minute as an afterthought.
That's great. And what about you, Mansi?
For me, this fantasy question is almost like going back in time. Actually, if I had to do a brush stroke, I would actually go back in time and like make sure that all buildings have courtyards, because I think growing up, when you went to different parts of the world where they had those beautiful trees growing in the middle, we all grew up around those elements where nature was not separated from who we were and who we are. I wish like there was a way possible to kind of bring that into every building, every space, and then that would just be a norm, and which it was back when like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro like set up as communities. The courtyard experience, I mean, that's ancient history, like even to the recent times. I think that's something that would be a great fantasy, like to have, where you can have a tree in your courtyard. It's as simple as that.
Thank you for listening to the Journal of Biophilic Design podcast.